Welcome to our virtual classroom. Join me for some fun learning. Welcome to Legacy Lineage Online Learning. It's Miss Nichole here with another fish story. We are so excited to have our new virtual classroom pet, Ruby Redfish, and we have been enjoying stories and activities all about Ruby. We recreated her fish tank and we've read two stories about Ruby, and this will be our third. Big Al. Big Al. We also learned, let's talk about all the things that we learned about Ruby. We learned that Ruby prefers to swim alone. She does not want to be in a school of fish, which are many fish that live together. And one of the reasons why she's like that is because Ruby is a beta fish. That's something else we know about her. The kind of fish she is a beta fish. And beta fish are territorial. They don't want anybody in their space. So Ruby's like, no, this is my space. I don't want any fishy friends. We also learned that beta fish like to hide. And so sometimes she will be inside her little barrels here. And when she sleeps, most of the time she is behind those barrels. We also learned that Ruby is a carnivore, which means that she's a fish, but she prefers meat, a meat eater. And the kind of treats that we give Ruby are, who remembers? Bloodworms. There they are. And stay tuned because on our next story time, we're actually going to do a feeding for Ruby. But right now, let's get into reading Big Al. I am reading, look at me, look at me. Time to put the toys away and listen to what I say. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. This is the front of the book. This is the back of the book. This is the spine. This is the spine. This is the front of the book. This is the back of the book. And this is the spine. And this is the spine. So the front of the book tells us the title of the story, Big Al. The back of the book lets us know it's the end and the story is over. And the spine of the book holds the pages of the book together, just like the spine in your body holds your body together. All right, here we go. Big Al. I really like this story. So remember we talked about a school of fish? This is a school of fish. A whole lot of fish that swim together. And remember we said Ruby is a beta fish and she prefers to swim alone. That's why I like betas, that they're my favorite because they don't need a whole lot of people around them. They enjoy being by themselves. Big Al. In the wide blue sea, there was a very friendly fish named Big Al. You could not find a nicer fish. But Big Al was also very, very scary. Would you like that, pet? Would you like Big Al as a pet? I think in one of our other stories I read, I think it was Fish Live in Water. And at the end of that story, Miss Nichole said, I don't think I would like this guy to be my pet. And he kind of reminds me of Big Al. He doesn't look like a friendly ruby red fish with her pretty red fin. This fish looks kind of scary, right? And I guess even though Big Al is very friendly, he's also very scary looking. But you know what? Let's find out what happens. Other fish seem to have at least one fish. Some had many, but Big Al had none. How do you think he feels with no fish? Let's look at the picture and see if the picture is letting us know how he feels. about having no friends. He did not really blame the other fish. How could he expect little fish to trust a great big fish with eyes and skin and teeth like his? So Big Al was lonely and cried big salty tears into the big salty river. How does that make you feel when you hear about how Big Al feels? So Big Al clearly feels sad, and that makes me feel a little sad too. Because even though he's scary, it doesn't mean he's not friendly. And he's not really scary, he just looks scary. So you can't go by what something looks like. And let's see if these fish ever learn that he's friendly, because if we just look at Big Al, we will never learn more about him. And you know what? Even though Ruby is territorial, I gave her a fake friend. I put a Nemo fish down there. And it's not a real fish, it's just a little figurine that I put in there. So Ruby has at least one friendly fish that she can get along with inside. But Big Al really wanted friends, so he worked at it. First, he tried wrapping himself up with seaweed. He thought it would make a great disguise. I'm going to read that again. First, he tried wrapping himself up with seaweed. He thought it was a great disguise, but no one else did. Who wants to stop and talk to a floating plant that has big, sharp teeth? So he thinks if he changes the way he looks, people will like him. But I don't think you should have to change the way you look to have friends. Let's see what else. Then he thought that if he puffed himself up round, the other fish would laugh and see how clever and silly he could be. All they saw was how big he could be, and they steered clear. Look at them. They are swimming away from Big Al as he puffs himself out. So it sounds like Big Al is a puffer fish because he can puff himself out real big. But I also think that to be friends, you shouldn't have to make fun of yourself or laugh at yourself to get people to like you. No. Right, Ruby? Let's see. See what happens next. Very early one morning, Big Al went down to the bottom and flopped and wiggled himself in the sand until he was almost covered up. He looked so much smaller. When the other fish came near, Big Al talked and joked with them and had a delightful time. But then one scratchy little grain of sand got stuck in his gills. And he sneezed. When the cloud of sand cleared away, all the other fish were gone. So now he's trying to hide who he really is so the others will feel comfortable if they don't see him. That makes me sad too, because you shouldn't have to pretend to be something different or try to be small so other people can be comfortable and feel big. Let's see what happens next. Oh, look, a picture with a school of fish. Big Al even changed his color one day so he could look like he belonged to a school of tiny fish passing by. He bubbled along with them for a while, laughing and feeling like he was just one of the crowd. But he was so big and clumsy that when all the tiny fish darted to the left and then quickly back to the right, Big Al just plowed straight ahead. He went bumping and thumping right into the little fish before he could even say, "Excuse me." They were gone, and he was all alone, sadder than ever. And I think that is one of the saddest feelings you have when you try to be something that you are not. So that's probably why he was so sad, because he had to try to not pretend to be Big Al and be one of these many, many, many fish that are all alike. That would make me feel sadder too. But maybe in all of this, he is finding his way. Let's see. Maybe he just has to remember that he's what? What did the book first tell us about Big Al? That he was what? The book described him as a very friendly fish. You couldn't find a nicer fish. So maybe to make friends, he just has to stay true to being a very friendly fish. Just when Big Al was starting to be sure that he would never have a single friend, something happened. He was floating along sadly, watching some of the smaller fish, and was wishing they would come closer. As he watched, a net dropped down silently from above, and in an instant, they were caught. Oh no. Big Al forgot all about being lonely, and he forgot all about being sad. His eyes bulged out bigger and rounder than ever, and with a mighty flip of his tail, he opened his mouth and charged straight at the net. The net was strong, but Big Al was stronger. He ripped right through it, and all the little fish rushed out through the hole. See, he had those big, strong teeth for a reason. And because he's so friendly, he just naturally wanted to help the other fish. Let's see what happens. But when Big Al tried to turn around and go out of the hole, he got all tangled up in the net and was stuck. The net went higher and higher toward the bright surface of the sea, and the little fish watched Big Al as he disappeared above them. When the little fish were able to speak again, all they talked about was the huge, wonderful fish that had saved them. How great to be free, but what a shame that the big fellow had been captured. Oh no. So now that he tried to help them, he got caught. And now they're all talking about what a wonderful fish he had. But look, he's getting pulled up to the top. Who will help Big Al? Just then there was a tremendous crashing splash from above, and the small fish dashed away. Was it the net again? Not at all. It was Big Al. Those fishermen took one look at him and threw him right back in the ocean. And so you see, the way he looked ended up saving him. It's for a purpose and for a reason. And now there is one huge, puffy, scary, fierce-looking fish in the sea who has more friends than anyone else. Big Al. The end. Oh, I don't know about you, but I really love this fish story about Big Al. I feel like it's a good lesson, and it goes along with what I always like to tell you at the end of story time. You are the you and unique. And because Big Al might have been big and scary looking and he had sharp teeth, that was exactly the kind of fish Big Al was supposed to be. Because what? He was able to bite through the net when all of the smaller fish were stuck. And he was able to let them go free because he was so friendly and he had a good heart. And guess what? Even his looks kept him from being taken away. He got thrown back in, and it all worked out because what? At the end, him being exactly who he was is how he got friends and was able to be happy. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. See you next time. And remember, you are the you in unique.